Okay. Rightio. Well, you probably don't need to see me anyway, so I'll just run through this. Um, Basically, from when doing the Nationals last year, observing sort of the starts of games and those sorts of things, I felt that we needed to do a bit of a brush up on starting the game, getting our signals right, but also what to do when doing a ball up at the start of a game, around the ground, that sort of thing. So I've put together this PowerPoint presentation in the hope that this will help new umpires, even some of the more experienced umpires, a bit of a refresher as to what we need to be looking at, what areas we might want to work on, and make sure that we're giving the best performance that we can on the day. So I will keep moving along, being I'm apparently half an hour late, so I won't stop around. So on the agenda, we're going to look at signals, we're going to look at game control, starting a game, and then transition to general play. So probably the number one rule, I guess, I sort of got taught as an umpire was you don't guess. You need to be sure when making a decision. If you start guessing at decisions, then you're going to start being in a little bit of trouble. So yes, you're going to miss a couple. That's just the way it is. So, but if you have questions as we go along, just sort of type them up. I can't see the chat because I'm looking at a full screen. So Sid, if you can interrupt me if somebody's got a question or puts their hand up, or if there's a comment in the box, because at the moment I can't see that.
Yep, I'll be happy to do that if you want to stop every once in a while, and I'll just tell you
Yep.
whether we
Or
have
just say
questions.
Steve, and I'll stop.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so let's make sure we we need to be 100% sure what we're seeing before we call a free kick. When you're controlling the game, three aspects: a strong whistle, loud, clear voice, and effective signal. So um, with the strong whistle, I guess one of the things I did notice is it's probably from other sports where it's a very quick whistle, whereas ours, because we're on such a big ground, you want a strong and a little bit longer whistle, so it really does get through. The loud, clear voice, well, not everybody's going to be like myself that can be heard from three suburbs over, but we need to be able to communicate and effective signals. The one thing with signals, the signals are not for the players. The players can hear your voice and they can hear the whistle. The signals are about letting the crowd and sort of people outside of a hearing voice what's going on. So they need to be clear and effective signals. So the first thing I did was go through the signals. So play on. It's used after a ball up or in general play. It's you can sort of see the motion there. You sort of come from your hands from the side and lift up high. It indicates that no infringement during a ball up, or that there's been a contest and there's no infringement. So you're just calling play on. Or the other one is if you have called a free kick or a mark and the player moves off that mark, you call play on, so everybody's aware that play is to continue. Calling for a ball up. So a pack's formed. It's not going anywhere, and you're going, right, I need to get in there. So you blow the whistle, cross your arms, indicating that it's a ball up. I'll use the term trigger in. So whenever it's a free kick or a high tackle or something like that, you want to trigger in. It's a change of pace. It's like, I need to get in there quickly and get ready for the next part of play. So you trigger in quickly, you get the ball, call for the rucks from each team to nominate, indicate the direction you're going to be backing out. And this is quite important because players should not line up behind you. And by putting your hand behind you saying, I'm coming out this way, players should know. And then it's a protected area for you. So you should have confidence to be able to pull the ball up without worrying what's behind you. If a player is there and you run into them, then you're hoping your fellow umpire, if you do happen to not see them, you call a free kick, and they will soon learn, don't be behind you. So you're protecting the area behind you. Throw the ball up quickly and back out of the contest while watching for infringements by rucks or other players. So what you don't want to be doing is when you throw the ball up, you don't want to be watching the ball. So it'll be one of those things that we'll need to practice, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. High tackle front on contact indicates that a player's been illegally hit above the shoulders. As we know, you can tackle below the shoulders and above the knee. So again, when you've seen this, it's a strong whistle. Your voice is high contact, and umpire then taps the shoulder 3 times. So it really does clearly indicate this is what happens. Now, something that has crept into the game over the last probably 3 or 4 or 5 years is players have got a little bit sneakier and a little bit cleverer in that when it looks like they're going to get tackled, they'll drop the knees. So they automatically get a high tackle. They'll charge into play using their heads. The rule, or I suppose the clarification I got of that is if a player contributes to a high tackle or a front on tackle. So if a player leads with their head and dives headfirst into a pack, that's not front on contact. If the other players are not moving and this player dives in, that's not front on contact. You'd basically say, you ducked your head, play on. And trust me, players will learn very quickly not to do that. The other one with the high tackle is if they drop the knees. So it's a little bit hard, and unfortunately, you will probably get caught. I've been caught. But once they do it once, you have a tendency to go, hang on, I'm going to watch this. And, the player is just making a rod for their own back. So be very wary of that one. If a player contributes to either a high tackle or front on contact, it is a judgment call at the time, but generally if they contribute to it, then call play on. Duck your head, play on. Push in the back indicates that the player has been illegally contacted from behind. Now, this is where a few of the players get a bit antsy. It's like, oh, but I didn't use my hands. I used my forearms or I used my shoulder. If it's a shove in the back, it's a shove in the back. Doesn't matter if they use their hands, forearms, chest, shoulders, side or hips. If they push the player out before the contest is there or the ball is there, it can be called in the back. A player can use their hands to hold position. So if a player is trying to push back and the player behind is just standing there, yes, they can use their hands, but they can't then push the player off and then take the mark. That would be in the back. So again, in that case, strong whistle, voice in the pack, and you indicate by pushing your arms from your chest in a pushing motion. Tripping indicates that the player has been illegally tripped by either hand or foot. If sometimes you'll see a player reach out for the ball, but not necessarily reach out for the ball, tap the person on the ankle, trip them over, it's a trip. So whistle, voice tripping, and then tap your ankle. Incorrect disposal, or ball, as we all like to yell out. So it basically indicates a player has failed to correctly dispose of the ball once they've been tackled. Now, they can do that by hand or foot, and it is, again, can be a little bit interpretive. If a player is immediately tackled as they grab the ball and they drop it and swing their foot at it, you would possibly call play on because they have made an attempt to get it out immediately. Now, if they've been held onto for 2 or 3 seconds, then dropped it and kicked it, you'd probably say, no, incorrect disposal. So, again, strong whistle, incorrect disposal. And as you can see from the diagram, you are swinging your arms across from crossed out wide. Main thing with this one, again, don't drop your head. A lot of people, when they do it, have a tendency to put their head down and look at the ground. You want to keep your eye on the contest just in case something else happens. While I was digging through some photos, I found this. This was Matt Nichols, the AFL umpire who was at the Nationals last year. So I thought I'd throw that in and keep Matt part of the team. Dangerous tackle. Another one that's probably crept in a little bit more. It used to be called a sling tackle, but now it can be any excessive force is used in a tackle that may result in an injury to a head or a neck. So if somebody pins the arms in a tackle and then drives the person down, that can be a dangerous tackle. Even though the person had an opportunity to get rid of the ball, hadn't got rid of the ball, the tackle still has to be a legal tackle. So this is one that I really would like to see us clamp down on. I think, I was talking to one of the Suns coaches last year, and he said, I've always taught my players to drive them into the ground. It's like, well, no. We need to be protecting the players to the best of our ability. So this is one that we really need to be on top of. Holding the player. Basically, they haven't had possession of the ball or they've got rid of the ball. So you can sort of see that's Elaney there, who's one of the first female AFL field umpires, showing that you just grab the shirt and tuck it out. Advantage. So this is if a free kick's been paid, but the team that the free kick's been paid to has kept moving the ball. You don't want to stop it. I think we've got advantage in most sports. So you really want to keep the play continually moving. You still need to whistle and indicate it was a free kick, but then call advantage by, as you can see, waving the hand over the head. 50-metre penalty, or I do know that that can be changed depending on size of grounds. So a mark or a free kick has been paid. The player that the free kick or mark or a player from that team then does something silly. They remonstrate, they push the player to the ground, verbally abuse the umpire, a number of different things. And the field umpire says, no, not going to have that. 50 metres, come with me. So you can sort of see he's doing the motion. It's like 50 metres, come with me. And they will go down to mark the spot. Now, what can happen with this one as well is if the player that has been given the free kick runs directly in line with the field umpire down to the next mark, that's fine. But if the player angles off at any time, the field umpire can call play on. You do not have to get all the way back to where the penalty is. So if the player moves off the mark or off the line of the mark and plays on, you call play on, even if they haven't got their full 50, 25 or 15, whatever it is that you're paying. A throw. Now, this is can be a little bit hard. I played one at the Nationals and one of the teams got very upset with me. But obviously we need to, make sure that the correct system has been used for handball, that they're actually punching the ball, not just throwing it up in the air. So it can be hard. A lot of time people will do it on the ground. You'll also see that players will do it when they're in close contact and they've got a teammate running past. They'll try and get it out quickly, and if it's incorrectly done, we call the throw. Kicking in danger, another one we need to watch for. A player is on the ground trying to get the ball, reaches out, and another player sockers it off the ground, nearly gets their hand or their head or whatever. Hopefully they miss. So you can sort of see a kicking motion between your hands. Running too far. This one I always find very interesting because it's 15 yards, but when people are at full tilt, that might only be 10 steps. So you do find that you'll find yourself counting steps to see if you think somebody's gone too far. And then generally you'll give them another second. If they're still running and haven't bounced it, the roll of the arms, you've gone too far. Now, insufficient attempt. Now, again, we're not AFL players, so you don't see a lot of these, but the player has to at least attempt to keep the ball in. You'll see some players that they're heading towards the boundary line and they'll just smash it straight over. Well, if they're doing that, then you would probably say insufficient attempt. But if they've kicked it, it's gone 50 metres and it's rolled over the boundary line. At the level where we're at, I really would hate to see that play. It has to be that they've pretty much gone in a straight line straight to the boundary. Signalling the direction of the free kick. Again, as you can see, from the hand through the chest, and that's the direction that you're going. Blood rule stretcher. So if a player's got the blood rule, hands crossed across, boys. Now, the player must leave the ground if you call the blood rule, but his replacement can come straight on, but you don't start the game again until the player with the blood is off the ground completely. How am I doing, Sid? Anybody jumping up and down yet?
No, not yet, but this might be a good spot to see if there are any questions.
Oh, gives me a chance to take a breath.
Yeah, there you go. Or drink some more of that, your cold drink.
Yeah.
So are there any questions right now? We do have some new people and people who haven't tried field umpiring before. This is a great time to ask a question. We can back the slides up or just answer your question. So any questions? All right. Hearing none,
Okay.
back to you.
Okay. Hopefully I'm not going too fast, but obviously this presentation will come up on the website later, so you can feel free to go back. And of course, you can contact any one of us in the coaching panel. All clear behind. Basically, this one here is indicating to the goal umpire that there have been no infringements before the score has been called. You are confident it's all clear, and you're also confident that it's a point. So you raise the one hand up. Same thing for, whoops, hang on. Again. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. All clear goal, same thing, both hands up. Showing that particular motion there, I have forgot to put a slide in. When you pay a mark, it's very similar. You put both hands up to say a mark has been paid. The other one that can happen is if the ball goes through, you are not sure of the score, whether it's a goal or behind or touched. You put your hands behind your back, but still call very loud, very clear, all clear. Now, Sid, you may have to answer this one because I had this question asked at the Sacramento Suns last week. I know at home when we've got official umpires and official goalies, the goalie has the last say. What is the official rule here in the US?
The goal umpire with a certification with accreditation has the last say. If it is somebody who volunteers from the sideline, we leave that to the field. And if there's a need for a discussion, then we have the discussion. And but it's really up to that person's accreditation.
Wonderful. Thank you. I figured it was probably somewhere close to that. So thanks, Sid. So there. A throw in, so the ball's gone out, the boundary umpire's blown their whistle. You also blow your whistle, and then as you can see, it's a throwing motion. You will then get yourself to a position side on and then say to the boundary, when you're ready, you'll just say to the boundary, when you're ready, boundary, throw it in. So that indicates to the boundary, you're ready, you're in position, you're happy that the rucks are in correct position, and you can go from there. End of play, you'll blow the whistle, both hands up in the air. So that indicates at the end of the quarter or end of the half, end of the third quarter, or end of the game. Okay, so we've talked about controlling the game, strong whistle, loud, clear voice, and effective signals. So now, before we get into starting the game, does anybody have any questions at this stage? So that pretty much covers all the signals.
Are you going to go over cards later, or is that a good time to talk about yellow and red cards?
Well, I didn't actually have that in mind because the thing that I got from Jeff when we spoke was basically positioning at the start of the game and signalling in positions. I hadn't actually talked about cards, but if you feel that we need to, maybe we'll do that towards the end.
Okay, yeah, and just in case there's some questions. All right, thank you.
No trouble. Yeah, just remind me at the end, Sid, please.
Sure.
Looks like we've got somebody waiting. Yep. Okay. So starting the game. So this was the one that, as I said, I sort of picked up at Nationals that the umpires were probably staying too close to the play. So I just thought we'll do a whole run through of what sort of happens at the start of the game. So as you can sort of see here, this is your field. In the center there, you've got two circles, a small circle, which is a 3 meter, or I think that's about 3.5 yards. And then you've got your 10-meter circle, which is here. So the rucks should be between these two. And the ruck going this way will be on this side. The ruck going this way will be on this side. So this is where you want them to start. And normally, as an umpire, you'll be dead smack in the middle, just this little bit out here. So you can see what's going on. Just a small tip, I always try to have the sun behind me, just in case if I'm looking at the ruckman that I don't have the sun in my eyes. So starting positions. So if you're in a 2 umpire, as you can see here, you've got your player 1, player 2, the field umpire who's number 1 who will be balling the ball up, and field umpire number 2 over here. Again, a little tip, if there is one team that happens to be stronger than the other, normally have that field umpire there. If you don't know, well, that's fine. Just pick a side. And if red happens to get the ball going this way, then the field umpire one has to really start running to get that direction. Okay. So to begin play, so the umpire holds the ball up above with no whistle, just holds the ball up, and this signals to the timekeeper that the field umpire, is happy that the players are in place, that everybody's where they should be, and we're ready to start the game. The timekeepers should sound a horn or ring a bell to acknowledge, and anybody who was nationals know we had those little air horns. So then once the umpire hears it, that's when they, again, still holding the ball up, blow the whistle to say, yep, we're about to start play, and we'll step in then and throw the ball up. The quarter actually begins when the ball leaves the umpire's hand. As I sort of said before, the umpire should be on the wing with their back to the wing. After they throw the ball, they quickly back out. Now, this is the one that I really wanted to emphasize. So you can see from the diagram, so umpire one has thrown the ball up, and you can see where they're backing out. You should be getting to between 15 and 20 yards out. Now, that sounds like a lot, but when you're trying to see what's going on around you, it's not that big a distance. But the main thing is to give yourself good distance between where you've thrown the ball up and all the players that are there, giving the players an opportunity to be able to contest the ball, but you're out of the road. And this can be practiced at training. So if you get two cones, put them about 20 yards apart, just throw the ball up in the middle and then back out as quick as you can and try and get to that cone before you stop backing out quickly. So that's that triggering backwards that I was talking about. If you are in a two-umpire system, the second umpire, they're up here. They would basically stay in the same spot, maybe move a little bit, sort of here and there, but they're going to watch the play and see where it goes. So hopefully that makes sense. Did anybody have any questions on that? No? Okay. I'm still on, am I, Sid?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want to check that I'm not talking to myself.
Oh, I'd let you know.
That's right. If you are practicing this at training, try and do it with somebody else, but concentrate on your consistency of your throw. The throw doesn't have to be 15 yards up in the air. It's getting it so that both rucks get a fair contest at it. And the main thing is if you're consistent with your throw, and you will get muscle memory. The more you do it, now obviously at training, you can look at the ball and go, okay, yep, that's where I'm getting it to throw, and then get your throws right and then trigger back. But your throw should land within that 3 meter circle. You don't want it getting too far out. Now, if the wind's right up, you see in AFL, they can bounce the ball and so long as it lands in the 10. But ideally, when you're throwing it up, try and get it to land back in that 3 meter circle. So what are we looking for? Well, in the ruck contests, and you can see the umpire here doing a good job. See how his eyes are focused on the rucks. He's not looking up at the ball. He's looking straight at the rucks to make sure that there's no infringement. So things that can happen is if you're watching the eyes of the ruckman, one ruckman can just be looking at the other ruckman and run straight at them. That would be a charge or a block, and you pay a free kick. If one of the rucks backs into the other one, which is legal to do, the ruck behind may put their hand on top of the shoulder to give themselves extra leverage to tap. Well, that would be too high. So anything that deprives the ruckman or the other one of the rucks the opportunity to contest the ball. Now, you can, as I said, back in. But if a player continually pushes back, and the ball hits the ground without anybody touching it, it would be considered a block. So that would be a free kick against the ruck that was shepherding and pushing back. Does that make sense? We all happy with that? Good. So far, nobody. Yeah. Either I'm explaining this really well or nobody's game enough to ask me a question yet.
Well, at an appropriate time, we'll stop and ask for more questions, and there might be some scenarios that people want to talk about. And So,
yep. Please think about them. That's why we're here. The idea is to try and help improve your umpiring and give you the confidence to go out and do the job. Also, as you're backing out, you can see again, number 11 here, the umpire is backing out. Because they're coming out far enough, they can see these other players that are around. Now, say this group here, if he had hold of the jumper, that would be holding. So it's not just a case of watching the rucks, it's also watching for shepherding, blocking, holding, or pushing in the players that are around the play. So when you are sure that there have been no infringements in or around the ruck contest, then you should call play on. So you'll see, you'll throw the ball up, you'll back out, you'll see the initial contest, you'll see it and go, no, I'm happy that everything's right there, play on. So the players know that there's no infringements there. Okay, so I've come up with this scenario, and it has happened. It's happened to me. You ball the ball up, you're running back as fast as you can, and the ball just keeps coming at you. So what do? Okay. Now, we haven't spoken about the tram lines yet. I'll get to that in the general play. But you don't want to keep going back and keep going back and keep going back, and all of a sudden you're nearly at the boundary line. The idea is to keep yourself sort of in between the square lines, and we'll get to that in a minute. So you have two choices. One, and this is the ideal choice, is you come back, and then when you reach a point that you feel, well, okay, I don't want to keep going back any further, you start arcing around, keeping an eye on the ball. You'll be running sort of backwards and arcing around. Now, if the field umpire 2 was up here, you'd arc this way. If the field umpire's here, the other one, you arc that way. Your other choice, which is not as good a choice, is you just stop and let the play go past you. Now, obviously, a couple of things can happen. One, you could get run over, which is never a lot of fun. And two, you can unfortunately lose vision of what's happening because you're too close to the ball. This can also be practice at training. It can be a continuation of your ball up and your backing out drill. So you've got your hat here. You then put a couple more hats around this way, and you back and just keep moving around. So it's a good practice to get yourself into. Ball the ball up, come back 15 yards, and then just start to back around, keeping an eye on the play as if the play was out here on the wing somewhere. So there are a couple of drills that you can practice at training. So that's pretty much what I've got for starting the game. We'll take a quick pause there in case somebody has some general questions that they would like to ask or scenarios.
Any questions so far? Okay.
Keep going?
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. Obviously, if you throw the ball up and it's not a good throw, it hasn't allowed for the contest between the two rucks, don't be afraid to blow the whistle, get the ball, throw it up again. Nothing wrong with doing that. It's better to do that and make sure that you get an even contest between the two rucks. I'm just trying to think if there's any other scenarios that I can think of in there. Yeah, no, that'll do for now. So transitioning to general play. Now, I was talking before about tram lines, and you can sort of see the tram lines pretty much go at the edge of the square on one side and edge of the square on the other wing. So this is your meat and potatoes area. This is pretty much where you want to be for probably 80% of the game. Because even if the ball's out here on the wing, you can be here and still see. You'll only be 20 or 25 away. If you've got to get a ball up or there's a bit of niggle, then you may have to trigger and get out a little bit wider. But ideally, this, as I said, this is the area that you want to work in. So you've got your major axis that runs down the middle of the ground. You've got your tram lines that run pretty much your squares. So when we're talking about backing out and then coming back around again, it's keeping you in this area here. This, in the ideal world, should give you the best possibility of getting side on to a play and being able to make a correct decision, 9 out of 10 times, hopefully. So that's the tram lines that I was speaking about. So when you're with two umpires, you should be working together. Actually, I think, hang on. Yeah. So working as a team, you shouldn't be any more than 3/4 of a kick apart. And this is the whole way up and down the ground. So you can sort of see where the play is. This is going to be the next passage of play. This field umpire, sort of not quite 45 degrees off, but enough to be able to, if they need to, trigger forward and be directly side on, or they're going to see a lot of what's happening through here. So it's not a case of this is your half and this is my half. It is a case of working together as a team to get the right signals. So with this being the case, you need to be in a position to be able to hand the ball over at the right time. So control of play is always given. It's not taken unless the first umpire, it was a mark, kick, and he hasn't called yours, but there's all of a sudden a dust up where he is. So his concentration or her concentration is right at that spot. And they haven't called yours. So number 2 would then have to go, well, okay, that umpire's busy. I'm going to take control. So in this particular scenario here, I did show the backing out and coming around. And so field umpire 1 has seen a free. So they've paid the free kick right here. What they do is they square off. So squaring off means you're directly in line with the mark. You haven't come forward, stay directly in line. If you start creeping forward, that then puts number 2 out of position. So make sure, if there's 2 of you, square off to the mark. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. So right there, number 1 stays right there. Number 2 has put themselves, that 3/4 of a kick down the ground, ready for the anticipated next play. Now, if the play comes out this way, the umpire might move in this way a little bit and still have full vision. If the play comes out this way, the umpire is going to push across. So again, they're in good position to make a decision. So coming back to field umpire number 1, when the player kicks the ball, umpire 1 will call yours. It can be yours, it can be the other umpire's name, but it needs to be nice and loud so that second umpire knows you are handing control over to them. Whoops, sorry. So the umpire 2 will tap their chest and acknowledge that they have heard the yours call and they now have control of the play. Umpire 1 should continue to watch the players directly in front of them, so just here for 3 to 5 seconds before moving on, to make sure that, if it was a high tackle, the guy who's kicked the ball might still be a little bit upset with the guy on the mark and kick the ball and then run straight out. And they're the sorts of things that we want to avoid. So it's called holding your vision. So hold your vision, 1, 2, 3, nothing seems to be happening. Or if you suddenly think, oh no, they're getting a bit close, you keep watching. Okay, so keep your eye on that. And again, that's watching for the behind play stuff, a late hit, a late bump, a push in the back, a trip, anything else that may happen just directly behind play. We're trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. And in this scenario, as soon as number 1 yells yours, number 2 actually becomes number 1. But I didn't want to confuse the issue too much. Okay. Any questions on that so far?
For our new and aspiring field umpires, could you just take a moment and define the control and the difference between 1 and 2 or 1, 2, and 3?
Okay. So number 1 is the primary umpire at the time. So They will make most of the decisions. However, they don't. Number two can still make a decision. When we were looking back, where the like the ball ups in the center. Hang on, let me see if I can get back to here. So when we were talking about balling up in the center, so the field umpire is in the middle. He's thrown it up here, but this field umpire is looking across. So this would be number one. This would be number two. But number two sees two players here, and one's got hold of the jumper. Now, this umpire may not see that, but this umpire has seen it. So this umpire has the right to make the call. So even though this umpire is number one, number two is never out of the game. So this is why we're moving that 30 yards apart that we were talking about. I think I had it here somewhere. Yeah, this is why we're moving it 30 yards apart so that we can support each other and see potentially what another umpire may not see. Now, again, this umpire's side on. This umpire here is looking back. This umpire may not see something happen just here. So they call it and say, well, hang on a minute. This guy pushed in the back or grabbed him or got a high, and this umpire would then back off. This one comes down and takes control of the play. So even though we talk as one and two, it's really, yes, number one's your primary at the time, but number two can make a call. What I generally say, if you're number two, you look up, you see an incident. First thing I do is look at number one to see if they've seen it. Count 1, 2. No, they haven't seen it. I'm going to blow the whistle and push in. I had one at Nationals just last year where, let me see. So, so this umpire was here. I was down the field here. The play was probably in about here. This umpire was probably blindsided to this side of the pack. I saw a throw. So I've come from here. I've seen it clearly. I was more than comfortable with it. I blew the whistle, called throw, and triggered in and took control of the play. So that's where, being on either side of a pack or either side of a contest, field umpires 1 and 2 can work together as a team to get the right decision. Did that sort of cover it, Sid?
Yeah. Let me just see if there are any questions about control and the definitions of who is umpire 1 and who is umpire 2. Any questions right now? All right. Thank you.
No worries. Okay. So we've gone through that. That's handing over control of the play. But again, remember, if you see it, you can call it. But as I said, always have a look at umpire number 1. Look, in a lot of cases, it's better off to have 2 umpires blowing a whistle for the same incident than not blowing a whistle at all. But ideally, you want 1 whistle. 2 can sometimes get a bit confusing. So that's our umpire setup, working together as a team. Now, continuing to work as a team, we have a thing called blow, show, and go. So, again, we're talking about umpires 1 and 2. So, umpire uses the whistle to signal a decision, ensuring it's heard by players and officials. So this would be umpire number 1. And I have a diagram, the next one, to show you how this works. The umpire would then communicate the decision. So was it a mark? Was it in the back? Was it a holding? Giving strong hand signals, body language, and clear voice to convey the meaning of the call. They will then show where the mark is. So they're pointing, and they will stop the offending team player and say, you're on the mark there. Once they've done that, the umpire will then push off in the next direction so that they are ready for the next field of play. I'll show you the diagram. Hopefully this will make it a little bit easier to understand. So we're looking down the bottom here. Umpire 1 has control. Squares off to the mark, which we've talked about. The yellow indicating which way the play's going. The black indicating which way the umpire's going. So number 2 has taken up a position 30 metres away, getting ready for the next passage of play. The player plays on, kicks the ball. This umpire yells yours. Umpire 2 takes control. It's a mark. So umpire 2 blows the whistle, says mark. You're on the mark there. Then they take off. Number 1 then pushes up to square off and take control of the mark. Number 2 should not be looking back at all. They should actually be just running, probably maybe 80% vision that way, 20% just keeping an eye on the ball if necessary, and pushes up. So now number 1 has control. The ball's kicked again. It's another mark, and umpire 1 is called yours. Number 2 has taken it. It's a mark again. So number 2 blows the whistle, calls the mark, gets the opposition player standing on the mark, and then goes. Number 1 pushes up and takes that spot again. And this continues the whole way down the ground. So that's why it's called blow. So you blow your whistle, indicate what the decision is. So mark, free kick, you show them where it is, and then you go. You get on your bike and run. And what that does is it allows number 2 to continually get ahead of the ball and be in a position to be able to make a better decision. The only time that this may change is if it was a volatile situation. Head-eye tackle, 2 players decide they want to get into it. So number 2 has to push across to control that. Number 1 may stay here, may push in to help out. It clears up pretty quickly. Number 2 backs out and then backs this way. Number 1 has pushed up and says, yep, I've got it. So number 2 then takes off. We'll get to tap throughs a little bit further on. So that's blow, show, and go. Any questions on that one? Either I'm explaining this really well or I've just confused everybody.
We'll have plenty of time for questions.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Okay. Now, we talked about getting side on to play as best you possibly can. This will sometimes mean you need to run at angles. So it's a very crude diagram, but hopefully you get the idea. So a free kick or a mark has been paid, or it's blow, show, and go, but the players kick the ball really quickly. Now, you don't want to be running in this direction because you're directly in front of the play and you can only see the players from in front. What you need to be doing is picking a side and angling off. As you can see, we're still within the tram lines, but we're giving ourselves that 45-degree angle looking at the ball so we can see not just the player in front, we can see the player behind or a couple of players behind. So you're better off being at a 45 than directly in front. So it is a skill to learn, and it can take a bit of practice. Again, I would suggest when you get to training, set a mark here, let the player kick it, and then get yourself out on an angle so you're that 15 to 20 yards side onto the contest. Now, this could be a case of either you're umpiring on your own or it's been a very quick transition of play. So you've tried the blow, show, and go, but this player's taken a mark and taken off. So you don't have a choice. You've got to get on your bike and you've got to get down there as quick as you can, because number 2 is still back here somewhere, probably huffing and puffing if he's me, going, yeah, it's all yours, you can keep it. But the idea is to make sure you're getting broad vision and out a little bit wider to see what's going on. Another example of this, so on the half-back line, they're continuing down the wing. As you can see, you're angling in so that you can get that 15, 20 yards away. You've set the mark, they've played on quickly. So you've gone, oops, I've got to get out here a little bit wider so you can see the angles running across. So, yeah, running at angles to make sure that you're at least 45 and preferably side on. So can't always get side on, but at least if you're 45, you're going to get a decent view of what's going on. Okay. Any questions on the angle running? No? Okay. Shall continue. The tap through. Now, this is probably getting into the next level umpiring. We'd like to see our what are the three levels, Sid? You got your beginner and before you hit advanced. What's the one in the development? No.
Oh, I still call them 0, 1, and 2.
Okay. As a zero, the first part of what we've shown you tonight is probably what we're going to be expecting. As you get into your next level or level 1, these are the other things that we're going to be looking for. But these are things that can make umpiring and controlling the game a lot easier, either at your club level or metro level, all the way through the regionals, all the way through the nationals. So this is what we call a tap through. In the ideal world, what should be happening is umpires, if the ball's coming from this way to this way, we always want somebody watching the goal square, because this is where, backs can be very sneaky and block or grab jumpers or do whatever else. Now, as you can see here, the play is right out on the wing, pretty much on the 50-meter line. With a tap through, it's normally the distance is 15 yards on either side of the 50-meter arc would be considered the tap through area. So you can sort of see with that white box, it's sort of showing that area. This is, sort of probably even to about here and around to here and running straight across. That would be considered a tap through area. But it's not the only case. We were talking back here where I said if a volatile situation happened here and number 2 had to push in, but the free kick was still going this way, number 2 might tap number 1 through and say, right, well, I'm stuck here. I need you to get down here to control the next passage of play. Doesn't happen a lot, but can happen, and just something to watch out for. You'd want to have done a fair bit of umpiring together to understand each other and know each other's signals pretty well. But it is something that if you are prepared, so this umpire here should always be watching this umpire. Even though they're sort of out of the play, they should be watching here, but also watching the umpire to see what they're doing. And the same would be in this situation here. Number 2 pushes in. Number 1 should be watching to see and go, right, well, yes, I can see number 2 is paying a free kick that it's going to keep going this way. I'll start to move down a little bit. Number 2 says, yes, I'm stuck here. I need you to go, and you push. And it's the same here. So this umpire is looking across here. The field umpire has paid a free kick to red. So this one will start moving a little bit more this way, anticipating that number 1 over here is going to tap them through. So it's a case of watching and working together. So the tap through, so I'm just making sure I'm not forgetting anything. Yep, I've done all that. Okay, so basically a tap through is it's showing here that you're tapping the hip, but it's sort of right on the side of the hip, and sometimes it's even on your backside. You give your backside a bit of a tap. The main thing when you're doing this is to make sure that you're tapping the side that field umpire number 2 is going to see. There's no point doing it goal side because they're not going to see you. You want to make sure you're doing it and make it a real performance, big, wide slap on the hip to say, I want you to go through. Field umpire 2 sees that and they go, right, I've got to start running. So once tapped through, umpire needs to push hard to get into a position to observe the next contest. So as you can see, you could be running 50, 60 yards. And having done it, even in my older ages, I tell you what, you get here and you're huffing and puffing like crazy. But you want to be about 35 yards out from goal. So you don't want to push all the way down into this pocket, because if the ball drops short, you're not in a good position to see. So you want to be outside of play, about 35 out, 45 degrees. If the players start moving up, you might have to back off a little bit so that, again, you're still getting good vision. And by being in this place, you get what they call the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your vision will go here watching here, but 20% you need to be watching, because if this plays on there's a turnover and all of a sudden this field umpire's got to go this way, well, guess what? You get to push back the other way. Not a lot of fun, but it does happen. So just to summarise again, don't guess, be sure. Control the game with strong whistle, loud, clear voice, and effective signals. And other than that, have a great time and go out and enjoy your umpiring.
Excellent. All right, Steve. Well, what we'll do is we'll keep the recording going for a couple of questions in case they were going to be good for everybody, the question and the explanation. I will say that I've been putting some things in the chat, and the accreditation levels are introductory, developmental, and advanced. So I put that.
I was close. I did say development.
Yeah, sure did. Okay. So we appreciate all that information. Some of that is going to be a good review for some. For others, that's going to be some new information and some new terminology. So for the recording, let's see, are there any questions that somebody might have? And then once those questions are done, we'll shut the recording off and then talk about anything else we need to chat about. So how about some questions? Now I got to make sure that I'm being heard.
Well, I can hear you, Sid. I don't know about anybody else, but
Oh, that's good.
Look, it's a lot of information to absorb all at once. Yeah, we hear you. Thanks, Aaron. As I said, it's more about trying to give you the skills. For those of you who don't know me, I moved over to the States back in October last year. I've played over 300 games of Aussie rules in Australia. I've umpired over 300 games. Does it mean I know everything? No. I've been very fortunate. I've had some good coaching on the way through, and it's my aim to try and pass that coaching on to you guys and hopefully help to lift the skills and the standard of umpiring for AFL USA while I'm here. So I'm hoping that what I've put forward tonight has been educational. There's probably some things you've done before or not done before. Some of the things I have observed have been, your end, my end. I think ideally, if we can get to the two umpire situation where they're working together. Now, just probably a few clarification points. If you are doing it on your own, a lot of the principles are still the same. You still want to get side on or 45, triggering into a ball up, triggering into a volatile situation. Obviously, you can't do a tap through when you're at the 50. Again, still angle off so that you can watch the goal square and watch the players as well. So a lot harder as a one, but you still want to be trying to get that side on as much as you can. I'm just trying to read Ben's question there. I just missed it. Hang on.
Yeah, it says, with regards to the ruck contest, is the current rule that rucks are permitted to engage at arm's length to contest each other at the ball up, or is that just still considered standard pushing?
No, I believe you can. I'm pretty sure I read through that document that you had up before we came on and did this, Sid. You are able to do it, but it's, again, the other ruckman still has to be able to contest. So it's more a holding your position than it is a push. Like if the ruckman or ruck, sorry, for our ladies that are out there, hopefully we have some ladies on board. If the ruck is not looking at the ball but is pushing the player away, then you would consider that a block because they're not watching the ball. So it is very much watching the eyes of the rucks to go, okay, is their intention to hit the ball or is their intention just to stop the other ruck from getting to the play? So if they're stopping from getting to the play, then you would consider that a block. But if it's they're looking up at the ball, they've got their hand out trying to push, well, the other ruck, if they're smart enough, will work their way around that. So, no, it's not considered a push unless they are not looking at the ball. Ben, does that answer your question? You're welcome.
Okay. How about
I have a question?
another question?
I may be dating myself, so I don't know if it's still something that's used, but can you explain the concept of third man up?
Okay, now third man up has actually been outlawed in Australia, but I don't believe it has been here. So the third person up is you've got your two main rucks that are going for the ball. The third person comes from behind, beside, and jumps over and can punch the ball. They cannot block the other ruck, so they can't actually interfere with the two rucks that are there, as in shepherding or blocking for their other ruck. It is being a third person. Now, Sid, can you confirm that that is still the case, that that third person ruck rule hasn't changed? Because as I said, in Australia, it's been 2 or 3 years. There has been no third person up, and nobody else can touch the ball until either the two rucks have touched the ball or it's hit the ground. So I'm just not 100% sure on the USA rules. Sid, have you got anything on that?
Yeah, I'm going to have to look, to be honest.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Great question. We'll check that out hopefully before we get off and just confirm that. But yeah, so if they are still allowed to do it, if the third person up is still allowed, providing they do not interfere with the opposition ruck. So as I said, it's pretty much a jump over the top to knock the ball. So yeah, but we will confirm that to make 100% sure.
Can I just chime in on that? Because I feel like that's always a question that's confused because for whatever reason, that's one of the few rules that the USAFL hasn't adopted, I think. I don't know why. Um, and I think, and maybe I'm even wrong on that, but I think it generally only happens like if it's happens for like a ruck contest where the rucks are clearly there, even if they might not clutch the ruck technically, you never really see that. I would normally just call that blocking or interference. I think it's only like I generally only allow it to happen like if you have really poor boundary umpires and the game just needs to move on and the ball is not getting anywhere close to where the rucks nominate. You've already blown it back twice, and there's like another guy that hits it well off from where the rucks are, where it hasn't landed yet, right? Like that's where just let it go, right? I mean, that's generally how I approach it.
Look, it is a bit of a common sense one. The other one that I find, Paul, that may be helpful if you do have, your young boundary umpires, something like that, that had a couple of goes. Sometimes I'll just grab it and ball it up.
Right.
So that way you are getting a clear contest between the rucks. You bring it back in 20, 25 yards in from the boundary line, so you know it's not going to go straight back out again.
Right.
And I find that is probably probably another way that you could look to do it. So that way you're getting a more clearer contest, and as you said, cleans it up a little bit and just stops that bit of frustration from the players. The third person up, if it is still allowed, does not apply to a centre bounce. So if it's after a goal or start, cannot be a third person up. It is only in general play around the ground. As Paul alluded to, a boundary throw in, the umpire's called for the ball because it's not going anywhere, something like that. The third person up can go then, but no, the centre bounce, those two circles that I showed you back at the start, the 3 metre one and the 10 metre one, nobody else is allowed inside that until the umpire throws it up, and it is only those two rucks that can contest that ball. But Paul, yeah, we will check that.
As well.
Yeah. Sorry, what was that, Brian?
Oh, I was saying thank you for the correction of third person up rather than third man up.
Did I say third person or third man? I can't remember now.
We'll go with person.
Person. Yes, yeah. Oh, look, it's unfortunately the terminology's been around for over 100 years, and old fogies like me have a tendency to forget to do that one. Did you find anything on third person, or we might just have to email that out later?
Yeah, what you just said, that's the interpretation that I found. Not on the center, but it's still allowed everywhere else.
Yeah, I'd like to see them take it out because it is something that we discovered, players can get injured and silly things like that. But hey, that's up to the AFL USA. I don't get to make those rules. So
yeah.
Look, hopefully that's it could be exploited. Yes, it is something that. Oh, look, back when football used to be very start-stop, not the continuation game that you see now, it was a way to get things moving. Players, your full forward and your full back stayed at full forward and full back. Now you can have 36 players in 1/3 of the ground. And so you want to try and keep it as open as possible. I think that was part of the reason they got rid of the third person up, was there's too many people in and the potential for damage was so much higher. And I think there were a couple of incidents in the AFL where, somebody got landed on their head and things like that. So it was just something that went, no, we're outlawing it altogether. So, yeah, hopefully the information I've given tonight's been helpful. I am happy for anybody who wants to email me with questions after tonight to do so. Sid, if you want to put up my email address, well, I think it's on there somewhere on the website somewhere. Oh, it's not. Anyway, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We have made discussions in regards to regional competitions and trying to run some umpire clinics at regionals. We haven't finalised that yet. I have already booked myself to go to Colorado. Colorado? No. Where's the Western one? Is that right?
Let me bring it up so I don't.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So I've already booked myself and my long-suffering wife to fly over there. And Sean, who's on here as well, who's been very quiet, not helping me very much. Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it. He and I will be working together to try and work with field umpires. I'm actually a level 2 accredited field umpire. I'm a level 1 accredited boundary umpire, a level 1 accredited goal umpire. So I've sort of covered off on the whole lot. One of the things I'm hoping to do from down here, I've just done a session with the Sacramento Suns. Thanks, Sean. I did a session with them just last week, which helped me to finalise my presentation for tonight. So I'm hoping I covered off on most things, but I'm hoping from a West Coast point of view that I might be able to get to a couple of training runs somewhere up and down the East Coast to work with some of the clubs if they're interested. But, ideally, if we can get something at regionals and you people that are on tonight can get along, it might be early on a Saturday morning. And when I say early, 8 o'clock, I would suggest we won't do a lot of running. It's more about getting the skills and that sort of thing and then letting you go play. But, as I said, my vision is to try and help to, get more umpires into it, male and female, and to make sure you've got the skills and the confidence to go out and keep doing what you're doing, because it's fantastic to see, people like yourselves wanting to come and have a go. That's how we all started. I mean, my reason for getting into umpiring was, as I said earlier, I played 300 games, and this was my way of giving back. It's like, well, I got to play 300 games because somebody else went out and umpired. So this is my opportunity to give something back to a game that I absolutely love. Hopefully you guys feel the same, and that you can get better skilled, better drilled. I think we are looking at least one, if not two more online sessions between now and nationals. So we'll work on some other skills and other areas, but certainly practice your ball ups, practice your triggering back, practice your triggering in. Now, triggering in doesn't mean you have to be Carl Lewis and cover it in 0.3 seconds. It's just a change of pace. I mean, I'm 57 years old. I am definitely not the fastest man, that's for sure. So if at least it's a change of pace. And it's even when you're moving down the ground, that blow, show, go, it's a trigger. If it's a tap through, it's a trigger. Try and get there as quick as you can and then get your rest once you get there. Because once you're in place, it's a lot easier to make a decision.